All right, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I had some struggle streaming going on, but I got to hit a reset, and we are going to talk about an arrest that was made in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Why is news is good news, but it's old news, like decade old news. I'm gonna give y'all a brief summary of what happened, but we're gonna break down a few things. I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the legal nuances of how this individual was charged with murder, being an accessory before, during, and after the fact. We're going to talk about all of that in this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm so that this video and content can get out to more people. Oh, it's better. Thank you. I appreciate it, sis. Thanks for hooking a brother up with the struggle stream. I don't know what was going on, but I appreciate you for jumping in and letting me know. You know, it's like you be at work and your glasses crooked, nobody tell you, and then you just walking around with crooked ass glasses all day until you get home and look in the mirror and it's like, damn, nobody told me. So I definitely appreciate you telling me. If you're new to this channel, I'm Marcus, the Debt Free Dad. We talk finances, financial takes, attorney reactions, current events. We talk about a whole wide range of stuff. Isn't that really a financial nexus here? Well, I guess there's always a financial nexus. When you go to prison, you go from earning whatever the hell you was making beforehand to like 35 cents an hour. So I guess we could throw this in the financial foolishness stupid category, but there's a lot of stupid things that went on. So in this video, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Tupac investigation. We're gonna talk a little bit about how beautiful the investigation was done by one officer that I definitely got to give props to. We're gonna also talk about how we all knew who did it and what happened like 10 years after it happened, and it's documented, and you can read and see the video about it on YouTube with all the confessions and the whole nine. So let's dive in. All right, we know Tupac, great artist, hip hop artist. In the 90s, we lost a lot of prominent hip hop artists. We lost Tupac, we lost Biggie. I think Big L went in the 90s. The 90s was just a rough year. And there's a lot of times, when certain celebrities pass away, I know exactly where the hell I was at in that moment. The first one that jumped to mind is Michael Jackson. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm in the barbershop getting the cut, and like everybody stopped and looked at the TV, and like it was a state of shock. Kobe Bryant goes in that list because nobody believed it. I know I didn't believe it. I thought it was fake for like 7 hours until it confirmed. I really got to give TMZ props, but Kobe Bryant was one, and Tupac and Biggie were the other ones. Where when they got shot, when they ultimately passed away, I seem like I remember exactly what I was doing in that moment, and it's such a vivid thought. Now that happened in 1996, I believe. So it's been 27 years, and hey, Las Vegas Police Department finally made an arrest. I don't know if y'all recall, a couple of weeks ago, they actually executed a search warrant on Dwayne Keefe D. Davis's house. And once they executed a search warrant, I did two things. First, I laughed because I said they aren't going to find any tangible evidence from a murder that happened 27 damn years ago. I mean, it is what it is, unless you just like an idiot and you just holding a gun in a perfectly air preserved capsule just so you can go to prison. But they executed a search warrant, which I knew wasn't going to turn up anything fruitful. But the other thing I knew when I saw them executing a search warrant, I was like, they about to arrest this fool, as they should have. Hey, if you allegedly commit a crime and you're convicted, your ass should do the time. So they executed a search warrant on Keefe D's house. I want to go ahead and play a video where the news kind of breaks it down. But before I dive in, I actually want to put a link, and let me pull this link up now. I should have left the link up the last time. But if you want to know the quick Reader's Digest, I'm just aging myself. But if you want to know a fast, easy version of the events that led up to Tupac's murder, there's actually a dope song out by a really dope artist, and I'm gonna pull it up and put the link in the video, in the description, in the chat, so y'all can see it. Let me see. I'm gonna go and pull it up real quick. But the artist's name is Glasses Malone. Really dope artist, and he actually made a song. It's called "Tupac Must Die." It's 4 minutes long, but it's interesting because I really like when artists do this. It's actually a common thing that artists are adopting in hip hop. But he explains the facts and circumstances of Tupac Shakur's murder from the perspective of the shooter. The shooter, or the alleged shooter, was Orlando Anderson, who was a Crip member in the Los Angeles Compton area. So let me go ahead and pull this link up. But it's a really dope video. It's like 4 minutes long. And if you want to know, like, hey, what happened, what led up to this is a great link to check out. It's a dope video to look at, but it gives you the perspective from the individual who allegedly fired the fatal shots that day. But let's go ahead, tune into the video. Y'all let me know if the sound is all right too, because I'm doing some whole new thing with the sound. So y'all let me know if y'all can hear the sound to the video okay once we cue everything up. Let's see. We're going to do it that way.
More breaking news at this hour. It is one of the most famous murder cases in American history. And now police in Las Vegas say they have made an arrest in connection to the drive-by killing of Tupac Shakur from the 1990s. Police giving an update just in the last minutes or so on who they've indicted for his murder. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rose is here now with more about the case and what a bombshell that dropped this afternoon.
Bombshell for sure. I had opportunity to watch the press conference, and the first thing I could say is looking what the district attorney said. He said, oftentimes with the justice system, justice delayed is normally justice, not earned. And so he said, no, not here. We've done our job. We've always been attempting to do this. He wanted to commend the officers that put in the work over the years, 27 plus years. Now, his mother, Tupac's mother's obviously passed 2016, but for the rest of his family, his siblings, and the other individuals that have been affected by this around the world, now have a little bit of justice, knowing that the individual is now behind bars.
Describe the investigation. As they said, obviously, this cold case, long arms of the law, taking a long time, but a lot of that broke basically in 2018 when the suspect admitted in himself as to being at the scene.
One thing they hit on today in the presser that I thought was great, they said, at the time of the incident, maybe like a week later, we knew everything that we knew today. However, it wasn't until that 2018 interview. In the subsequent interviews after, Keefe D was very, very bold with the book release, press conferences all across the country, internet, Vlad TV and other institutions had him on there talking about not just his location at the time of the incident, but actually intricate details. And they said it lined up to specific evidence that they found. You add that on top of the not the raid, but the warrant that they had to search Keefe D's home about a few weeks back. Combining those two things with the 2018 interviews, I think that took it over the top. That allowed them to say, no, we have the evidence. This is our guy. And now everyone else is dead. There were 4 individuals in that car. The one that everyone at the time believed did it, Orlando, he was gone. 2 years later, he was killed. And so that was his cousin, his nephew. Because of that, I believe that they knew this was him. He just cooperated.
It's funny because he's like, yeah, Orlando Anderson, the alleged shooter, was gone 2 years later. He was actually gone 1 year later. He died in a gang-related shooting. But it's funny because this dude just read his cliff notes for this interview, clearly.
We're in an era right now where folks, I've said it before with Trump and with the Menendez case, your words have been used against you more times than ever before because of the internet and the access to individuals at more than any other time in history.
And still, it took even 5 years, 6 years or whatever, 5 years after 2018 to come to that. I remember this very well. Back in the 90s, there was the Selden Tyson fight. I was standing at the Hard Rock when all this was going on this weekend. It was a huge deal that happened. But all the things that have happened with this legendary status, as a lawyer, when you look at this, does it come to full circle on how you can make this case come together and make this stick in court now?
The problem is that when you have an individual that doesn't listen to the advice of counsel, he did a proffer, which doesn't give you immunity to a case. It doesn't give you immunity for conviction. It says we won't use those statements that you make against you. That doesn't mean that someone else can't use the statements that you make against you. And it doesn't mean that information that's used outside of that sit down, that proffer, can't be used against you. That was the worst part. And I always tell my clients, I can beat the other evidence that's out there, but it's hard for me to beat the evidence that's you.
You're right.
That you
shut the hell up, in other words.
Extremely hard to defeat.
Yeah, guilt consciousness, catharsis, or whatever it may be, or something like that after all these years. All right, Khalif, thanks for breaking it down for us. Well, as more starts to...
All right, so I thought that was a a dope little recap of what was going on with everything. But there's also another video. So I put the link in the chat where you can go to that link and actually check it out. It's a rap video that's like 4 minutes that describes literally the exact breakdown of the events that led to the shooting, because the artist actually took a, a shitload of interviews that Keefe D did across various platforms, and we'll get to that. But long story short, in 2016, Greg Kading, and he was a police officer. He was assigned to a federal task force to investigate not only the Tupac Shakur murder, but the Biggie murder. If you go on YouTube and do a search for murder rap, it's about an hour and 48 minutes, but it's a beautiful documentary. If you want to watch how an investigation should be done, watch this documentary where this detective essentially put the pieces together to solve the Tupac and the Biggie murder. It was absolutely beautiful. He started it out by disproving a theory that didn't make any sense. Then they had to come up with an entirely new theory. Hey, I don't want to spoil that video, but that video got deep. I mean, they had interviews, they had audio of artists with Bad Boys saying things that corroborated the story. Hey, I'm gonna put this out there. Hey, if you listen to the audio, it looked like they had a potential case against Puff Daddy too for some crazy conduct related to, you know, some wild issues, but they didn't dive into it. Then a lot of people had passed away. But it's a really dope ass documentary to watch. It's called Murder Rap. Now, the first question that someone asked is, okay, Keefe D wrote a book. He went on 50,000 platforms. I don't know why. And all of this, a part of it started from one of the things that start all rap beef. Somebody got their chain taken. I don't know what it is, but like, punch me in my face, but don't take my chain. So there's always a chain getting taken in all sorts of hip hop beef for some reason. But essentially, a lot of people asked and wanted to know, like, okay, this guy, Keefe D, Duane Davis, he was a shot caller for the Crips. He was not the shooter. His nephew was the alleged shooter. How is he being charged with murder? Well, that's the easy and probably the most simplest concept to explain. You can be an accessory before the fact, an accessory during the fact, or an accessory after the fact. If you're an accessory during the fact, according to all accounts and his own stories, his own tales, he went on he went on the Urban Ghetto podcast tour circuit to express his story and talk about what happened. But if you're the accessory during the fact, you're the accessory during the commission of a crime, you're going to be charged exactly the same as the principal. So, hey, if I'm riding with somebody at the time the crime is committed, if it's a murder, it's a bank robbery, I'm going to get charged exactly the same as the principal who committed the crime. That's how he's getting indicted on this murder charge. One of the other things that's just kind of foolish is like, I don't know. How could I put this? When someone has so much contact with law enforcement, you've been in jail before, you've been around the block. I'm going to be honest with you. In my experience, people who have a history with law enforcement being incarcerated, they actually know enough of the law to be dangerous, as in to be dangerous to their own interests, but also to kind of know a little bit about what they're doing. So I'm actually shocked that Keefe D thought it was a good ass idea to go on Vlad TV, which is essentially a hip hop podcast where he brings guests on and they just talk about their life. And once you're on Vlad TV, you're talking about millions of views, millions of followers. He wrote a book. He did all of these things. And so my initial reaction, I remember when I saw him on Vlad TV, I was like, yo, how dumb is this for this guy to go? Yeah, it is a conspiracy too. That's a good call. It is a conspiracy too. They had a substantial act in the furtherance of a commission of the crime. But the murder charge is going to be what hits him over the head the hardest. But a lot of people ask, like, well, why would he go on these platforms? I don't know. I think I would like to think he's been in jail a few times. He should have probably read one or two law books or just from experience. But there's no statute of limitation on murder. So, like, it just perplexed me. I was like, yo, why is this dude on Vlad TV with millions of people talking about it? And I'm sure that video that he was on there is going to get millions of more views in light of this. But he essentially went on there telling in detail about it. And immediately after that interview, it was a big discussion that came up in the black community. The discussion was, is it snitching if the story you're telling impacts a person who's no longer here because they passed away, they dead, they're decedent? Um, I don't know. I don't think it's snitching. I don't know if you can snitch on someone per se who's not here, but it is dumb as hell when your own interest is involved. But if you go to YouTube, do a search for Murder Rap. It's a beautiful documentary. And at the 52 to 55-minute mark, Officer Greg Kading is actually doing a audio interrogation of Keefe D. And they just tied it together so beautifully because he had some trafficking charges for trafficking heroin or dope or cocaine or some big time drug. And his chip that he used to get out of the trafficking charge was his information he had on the murder of Tupac Shakur. And so that is how he had a recorded interview out there of him actually telling this story. You saw in that video clip, the attorney was saying that, oh, a pro offer was made. And you can hear it actually during that interview. How it kind of started out was they actually started asking him about the Biggie murder. And his actual statement was, oh, that wasn't us. That one wasn't us. What the hell would be your next question if you ask somebody about murder A and you say that one wasn't us? Your next question gonna be, oh well, which one was y'all? which murder was y'all? And you'll see, hey, you'll see. I don't want to play it because you're gonna go get a whole YouTube copyright strike and all this other stuff. But it's called Murder Rap. It's on YouTube. It's about the 55-minute mark. Now, when you make a pro offer to law enforcement, you're sitting at a desk. You probably got your attorney there if you're smart, other than that, representing yourself. And you're making statements where you're probably implicating yourself. But generally, the agreement is whatever you say, as long as it's truthful, we won't use it against you. And we saw the attorney talking about that in the actual news story. The problem is a pro offer has an expiration date. So if I am being investigated for a crime and I'm sitting down making a pro offer today and I'm telling all the illegal conduct and all the illegal stuff that I did right now in this moment, next year, the year after, if I go on a podcast with 1 million followers and that gets millions of views and tell the exact same story, that story is going to be used against me. So, I mean, that's one of the things we see quite often. You see it with people doing interviews on podcasts because they think it's cool. They talk about the crimes they committed. We see it in music all the time. How many times have we seen artists indicted for criminal charges, RICO charges, I think are the most recent one, but it happens quite often. Now, he was the only person left. 4 people in the vehicle, 3 of the people are dead. He's the only person left. He made a pro offer. They didn't pursue him at that time. So the next question you're going to probably want to know is, well, what the hell took the Las Vegas Police Department so long to solve this? And hey, I got to give the perpetrators and the people involved in this crime that's being investigated a little bit of credit when it comes to the street code. I've been doing this game for a long time, and I've probably had, Jesus, if I'm thinking of how many criminal cases came across my hands in a defense or prosecutor standpoint, I ain't gonna say hundreds of thousands, but it was a lot. I mean, at one time I was running 1,000, 1,500 cases a year that I had as a defense attorney. So it's a lot of cases. Of all the cases that came across my desk, defense, prosecution, investigation, I can only think of one individual who actually kept their mouth shut and didn't say anything, which shocked me, and that didn't happen. So I think one reason why Las Vegas, the police department, took so long to even be able to make some headway in this is, one, it was really difficult geographically when the crime occurred in Las Vegas, but all of the persons who allegedly committed the crime resided in Los Angeles. I mean, that just makes it a lot more difficult to be able to run and lead these investigations. That's point number one. Point number two is I'm gonna just be honest. I think all of the persons involved generally did a good ass job of shutting the hell up and not saying anything to someone that it could come back and kick you in the ass. You know what I mean? I'm sure they went back and told all the hood, but whoever they told in the hood, it didn't get back to the proper authorities. And I think the last thing is when you have that geographical distance, crime occurred in Vegas, the perpetrators live in Los Angeles, so you got a geographical distance that just makes it hard. As time lapse, and that's one of the things about conducting investigations, especially when you're conducting investigation with physical evidence. Like financial crimes is a lot easier because paper trails don't go away as easy. If you open up a bogus ass business and you file some bogus paperwork, you fraudulently sign it, that stuff got scanned by the Secretary of State at your state that you live in. Is a digital copy, is a hard copy somewhere. It's probably someone in the office who stamped that and certified that bogus document that you sent. There's a long ass paper trail that'll never go away. But when you're looking at crimes like rape, homicide, time is of the essence. And the longer that you wait, that evidence disappears, bruises disappear, scars disappear, fingerprints that were there aren't there anymore, guns get tossed in the river. So I think the amount of time was problematic. I think the geographical location was problematic. I think that they knew the general facts of what happened a long ass time ago. I mean, this murder rap documentary on YouTube that's out on YouTube. I want to say that I think that came out in 2016 or 2018. So they knew the facts, but it was really circumstantial. And then the only person you had to connect the pieces together, the words that they gave, the story that they gave was in a pro offer and it couldn't be used against them. And everybody else by this time was probably gone, probably kicked the bucket. So, I mean, I think those are the reasons why it just took so long. I actually saw an interesting article where Tupac's brother was talking about how this entire thing is just reopening old emotional wounds and scars. And I can understand that. I get that. But yo, definitely check out the murder rap documentary. It was a beautiful documentary, the way this guy solved both of those murders for Biggie and Tupac. And they had an incentive to solve Biggie murder. As a little side note, they had an incentive to solve Biggie's murder because I don't know if y'all recall, but at the time, the initial theory for the murder of Biggie Smalls was that crooked, shady Los Angeles Police Department officers were involved. Because of that theory, it kind of became known as an accepted fact. And the only reason LAPD wanted to investigate Biggie's murder in the first place was because the original theory said LAPD was involved. After that kind of got a little headwind and a little traction, Biggie's mother filed the estate against the Los Angeles County Police Department. And the judge in that case said if Los Angeles County Police Department loses this case, it could be upwards of $400 million because that was the estimate of Biggie Smalls' earning potential throughout his life. And so the Los Angeles Police Department actually brought Greg Kading on for two reasons. One, it was a cold case and they wanted to solve it. Let's see if we can knock out this Biggie and Tupac murder. But if you can actually solve the murder, it allowed them to get from underneath that lawsuit. And that's exactly what he did in this documentary. It was really beautiful. He disproved the initial theory that LAPD officers had something to do with Biggie's murder. And he disproved that so well that the lawsuit that Biggie's mother filed had no standing. There was no factual basis for it to go forward. So that's really the main reason why Los Angeles had any interest in Biggie's murder. But now let's spin it around back to Tupac. This brings us to a question of how stupid is it for people to go on platforms or make a songs talking about whatever it is you did? You know, like, hey, if you want to talk about your crime to somebody, that's up to you. It's probably going to end bad. When I first saw these Vlad TV interviews and I saw that Keefe D was making a whole tour on the black podcast circuit, the hip hop podcast, true crime circuit. Initially, I was like, this is stupid. And then I had to think about it. I was like, no, it's not. It's not stupid. Because this is something you learn early on as an attorney, right? When I was a young defense attorney just starting out, you're really green. So you always get assigned to do first appearances. When you're doing first appearances, and like you don't want first appearances on a Monday. Everybody who get arrested Friday, Saturday, Sunday is in there on a Monday. And I think I had like one Monday, and I'm in there, and there's 30 damn people coming in charged with various crimes over the weekend. And you get up and give this speech. The judge will say, okay, Mr. DFD, can you give your speech? And I'll be like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for your first appearance. At your first appearance, we're only going to address three things. One of the things that we definitely aren't addressing are the facts of the case. So do not say anything. I yell it. Please do not say anything about the facts of your case. The facts of your case aren't an issue during first appearance. And whatever you say, you see Madam Prosecutor over there, she's going to write it down, and it will be used later against you on your actual court date if you decide to proceed to trial. So we aren't addressing the facts. We're only addressing three things. What's your next court date? We're going to the judge is going to set your bond, and we can argue about the bond. Should it be high? Should it be low? Whatever. And the last and final thing is, do you qualify or do you need a court-appointed attorney? That's it. Then, please, I implore you. I mean, I'm yelling. Please don't say anything about the facts of your case. Man, I sat there, and it was so many people. I remember one guy essentially admitted it to trafficking cocaine right there on the jail line. Like, as he started talking, I'm like, Mr. Jones, don't. Like, Mr. Jones. And he just kept going. So I just sat back. I was like, you know what? I just sat back and put my arms up. I was like, I can't stop this dude from yapping his gums. But hearing and seeing Keefe D make all of these interviews on the Black True Crime podcast circuit, it took me back to doing those first appearances. If someone is at the first appearance line explaining it was wild too. He was like, I didn't know what I had. Somebody gave me a package and I just threw it in my glove box. And I was just sitting there rubbing my temple like this buffoon. But if someone is on the first appearance line telling their side of the story and all the facts of the case that aren't helping them at all, is only worse, that's not the first time they did it. You know when else they told that story? They told that story at the time they were getting arrested. They probably told that story when they were getting processed. They probably told that story to their cellmate. So by the time it gets to them telling that story in the first appearance, I'm probably the last person to hear the damn story. So I learned not to be so concerned with it. But that was the thing. When Keefe D went and told these stories on these platforms with millions of people watching, he had already made a pro offer actually telling the statements. He already had a book that was already out there in the ecosystem, so to speak. So him going on these podcasts talking about it, as stupid as it was, I'm going to just be honest, it really wasn't that big of a deal because that wasn't the first time that he went out and said something about it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, if I were to put on my soothsayer hats and rub my temples and say, how's this going to play out? Conviction! Like, this dude is going to get convicted. I don't think it's I think it's unequivocal, without a shadow of a doubt, that he's going to get convicted. And the wild part is the conviction is going to be from his self-incriminating statements that he made and gave up all of these platforms. That's going to be the pain in the ass. I mean, not the pain in the ass, but that's going to be the wild thing about it. Because like I said, from a 27-year-old murder, there's no way that they could have, like, you really think this dude got his blood splatter t-shirt in his house in a perfect, I ain't gonna say Ziploc bag because that's the worst place to put something, in a perfect brown paper bag, folded up, just waiting for law enforcement to come? No, that rental that they had is gone. The any clothes they had is gone. The pistol probably in the Los Angeles River somewhere. So it's not really going to be a lot of physical evidence to time to this. It's going to be circumstantial evidence and all the shit that he said throughout all of these interviews that's going to just kind of jam him up. So he's probably going to eat this. I feel fairly confident that he's going to eat this. I think it's an easy case to prosecute. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think he got he's up the Shit's Creek without a paddle. Now it's interesting because I don't know if y'all know this, but at one point in time, Orlando Anderson, the actual shooter, he actually, and you can Google this, he actually did a video on like a Dateline 2020 type of show because everybody kind of identified him as the shooter, and it got a lot of steam and traction. And Orlando Anderson put on a nice suit and went on this Dateline show to expressly say that he was not the shooter. He wasn't responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Allegedly, there was a transaction of money between that. Like, hey, if you pay me X amount of money, I'll go and say this to kind of make this all go away. But it's crazy. It's good. It's crazy that it took this long when we knew what the hell happened. But it's good that hey, I'm all for closure, man. I'm all for resolving something. I know I've had family members and friends who've been murdered, and some people need that closure in the justice system to kind of bring it all together. So, but yeah, he gonna eat this conviction. It ain't gonna be nothing. Criminals are dumb. I agree. 98.7. I give some of them credit, but 98.7% of criminals are dumb, and it's sad that lost talented people over a nonsense beef that really could have been avoided. The bottom line though is, and if you watch that video I put in with that link, check it out. It's called Tupac Must Die, and it's a rap video explaining the death of Tupac Shakur from the perspective of the shooter, Orlando Anderson. And I've seen this so many times. I've seen and know so many people who aren't here anymore because they got their feelings hurt. How did they get their feelings hurt? Somebody said something in front of the wrong person and they were embarrassed. Somebody got an ass whipping on the street. And if you watch that video, that was kind of the take. Orlando Anderson and his friends snatched somebody's chain in the mall and he whipped the guy's ass. The guy had a death row chain. They all at the fight. The guy who got his chain snatched sees him. Hey, that's the dude who took my chain. That's the reason Pac and the entourage went over there, whipped up on Orlando Anderson. And think about it. Tupac was saying thug life, but he really wasn't a certified blood member or anything like that. I mean, as far in the eyes of gangsters, Tupac was a civilian. Like, just think about it. If you're a triple OG certified gangster and they like, oh man, I got stomped out by this Joe civilian dude who talk about thug life, but he not really a thug. Nah, that's a blow to your ego. And and you'll see if you watch that video that one of the reasons was like, man, if I get back to the hood and everybody found out about this, everybody gonna try me, and I can't have that. My ego is bigger than, and my rep, my street cred is bigger than let Joe civilian think he could get away with stomping me out and not have no consequences or repercussions. But I mean, that's a true bill. I've seen murders happen from people who everybody was having jokes and just cracking and ragging on each other, and somebody couldn't take the joke, and a person ends up dead because, oh man, you told too many jokes too good, and everybody was laughing at me and I was embarrassed. It's a cold game. What's going on, Crystal? I appreciate you tuning in. Shout out to everybody who tuned in, who checking out the content. I appreciate y'all and I appreciate the support. But that's where we are now. I think this is probably going to happen fast as hell because I'm gonna be honest. If I'm Keefe D's attorney and if I'm his defense attorney right now, I don't know. I think he's at an age because Keefe D is up there. I think he's at an age where not everybody, but a lot of times people in the streets, they tend to age out. Just, when you hit 40s, hey, you know how hard it is to stand on the block when you got arthritis? If somebody as a youth who used to hang out a lot, it requires and involves a lot of standing in hot and cold temperatures. You can't be doing that when you're in your 50s and 60s, knees all buckling up and stuff. So a lot of times you see people who, may have had criminal past, they kind of just age out of that stuff. So I don't see Keefe D having, even if he have it, I don't see him providing any viable information on any other crime that's going to be able to get him a sweetheart deal on this murder charge that he's about to eat. Because I mean, like, it's one thing to snitch on your nephew who's dead, because I think his assumption was, well, I can tell on the dead man because he's a dead man. Maybe not knowing that he'll be charged for that murder because he was an accessory during the fact. I think that was his logic. But I don't think that even if he had knowledge, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he a dude from the hood. Even if he had knowledge of some current criminal activity, I don't think he's going to give that up on anybody who's alive right now and active for a sweetheart deal on this. I just don't think is the case. The other thing that's interesting is, how much do y'all think these people are getting paid to go on these platforms? If y'all haven't watched Vlad TV, it's a dope platform. He actually, I watched one where he had a couple of hitmen, retired hitmen for the Genovese mob family in New York on this channel. And I'm just like, bro, these dudes on here spilling all the beans. Like the mob ain't gonna come after y'all. But the question is, how much y'all think somebody like Keefe D got paid to go on a platform with 1 million something people, 1 million something followers, to just see, like, okay, I'm gonna go on this platform and we're gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can find out how much Vlad pays his guests. It popped right up. Interviews. Let's see. Okay. 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 All right. All right. All right. Let's see. How much does Vlad TV pay for interviews? If this is true, if this amount is wild, okay. Um, hold up. This amount is wild. Hold on. This amount is actually wow. Wow. If that's true, that's pretty fucking impressive. Pardon my language. I dropped the F bomb because I didn't think I dropped the F bomb because I had no clue, and I did not think that they were paying this much. But I Googled it, and it says, how much does Vlad TV pay for interviews? According to statements, now this is coming from DJ Vlad mouth, so it might be a little bit of embellishment. According to statements made by DJ Vlad for Variety magazine in 2022, usually thousands of dollars are discussed when negotiating for interviews. More specifically, figures currently hover around $100,000 depending on the interview. So, like, okay, yeah, okay. If Keefe D got 100 racks to go on Vlad TV and talk about this old crime, I still think it's stupid, but I get it. I don't know what Mr. Keefe D, Duane Davis was doing for a career, but if that number that Vlad gave out, 100 racks to go and do an interview, like, I don't know. I don't know if I think maybe artists are getting that, right? Because let's just put this in perspective. Let's look at it from a common sense standpoint. You got Vlad TV, who got millions of subscribers and get millions of views. If he interviews, I don't know, Cardi B, Dr. Dre, Eminem, his million of viewers are going to get an influx from the millions of fans that are coming in from this artist or this athlete. So it would make sense for somebody like Vlad to actually pay an artist $100,000, because off of the views you're gonna get alone from having that artist on, he probably make that 100 racks back real easy. But for somebody like a Keefe D who doesn't have a following, you know what I mean? I'd be shocked if he's paying $100,000 to somebody who, because when a celebrity goes on the show, there's a mutual benefit for both sides. When Joe Blow goes on the show to talk about some old ass crime he did that he probably need to shut the hell up with, when he's on that show talking about it, he's getting the influx, but Vlad not necessarily is getting the benefit from it, unless something happened that trends. So those views now for those videos is probably going to blow the hell up. But yeah, it said $100,000. If Keefe D got $100,000 to go on there And hold on, let me see something real quick. Let me see something. I can't believe he paying $100,000 for people to come on and do these interviews. That's crazy. Let me see. Look at this. This is 4 hours ago. I just pulled this up. I don't know if y'all know this, but in the hip hop urban community, is a story going around that Vlad from Vlad TV is a Fed. People go in there and admit to their crimes, and the next thing you know, an indictment pop up. And so I was googling how much I was googling how much did Vlad pay Keefe D for his interview? And the first thing that popped up was an article from Complex that was posted 4 hours ago. DJ Vlad claims he didn't cooperate with Las Vegas Police Department in Keefe D's arrest. That's hilarious because like I'm not saying he's an informant, but like he doesn't have to cooperate because the damn videos is on YouTube. How much more cooperation do you need? But he says here, Vegas Vlad says Vegas PD contacted me about his Keefe D interview. So yeah, he definitely reached out, but I can't find what Vlad paid Keefe D. But if it's 100 racks, I can kind of understand why he probably did it. He probably thought that it was bad to do and terrible advice he got. But if he made 100 racks for it, hey, times is hard. I don't know how much money he was making. I would understand it completely. But that's it. Hey, I'm gonna give props to shout out for Las Vegas Police Department for doing their damn job, man. When we see cases like this, whether it's a civilian or a celebrity or whatever, man, we always want to see that stuff come to a close, man. There's families out there, and these things impact families from both sides. You know what I mean? It affects the family of the person who's no longer here and the person who got to go sit down for 20, 30 life, whatever years you get. It affects their family too. But it's good to see those closures to these types of cases. In my opinion, I want to see those things closed. I ain't no street dude, so hey, I'm all about justice. And stupid cats gonna keep doing stupid things, and you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So let's look down the road. Like I said, I think this is gonna be an easy conviction. Like my daughter could prosecute this case. I think it's gonna be so easy. I'm gonna be shocked at what his attorney does. And really, like I said, I think his best bet is for his attorney to go in there and see what he can get just far as a plea agreement, because he's gonna eat some time. He gonna have to go sit down. He just don't want that time to be too damn long. And I'm gonna be honest, if I'm a prosecutor in this case, I probably wouldn't give him no goddamn leverage. For what? Like, why would I give you leverage if you don't have anything for me? You know what I mean? Now, and it ain't like it would be one thing. Like, okay, let's contrast this real quick before we jump out of here, okay? Hey, I used to love Bad Boy Records back in the day, okay? I don't know if y'all familiar with this artist. His name is G Dep. It was right after Biggie Smalls died. Bad Boy had these new flux of artists. G Dep was a young and upcoming artist. His first album was dope, and he was at the peak of his career. And he went and turned himself in for a murder that he committed and got away with. He got away with the murder. I looked it up. This dude went, he's like he couldn't sleep at night. He was at the peak of his career. I mean, his career trajectory in hip hop was about to take off, but he couldn't sleep at night. And I actually watched an interview he did. His name is G Dep. If you Google G Dep's interview, he said he couldn't sleep at night. He turned himself in the police department. And when he went to the police department, he explained, "Hey, I want to turn." He said, I got information about a murder." And he said the police officer was like, "Okay," and he gave him, it was this date, it was this time, it was this street corner location, and it was me, and I want to turn myself in because it's killing me. And he probably was in his mid-20s when he turned himself in for that murder. And he said the police sent him home. They was like, "Man, this dude wilder. He ain't." They was like, "This dude a rapper and he turned himself in for a murder that he got away with? Nah, no bueno." They actually sent him home. And he said he went back up there another day. And after he went back up there, they actually went and did some research and saw that, oh, snap, it was a murder that happened this date, this time, this location, exactly how he described it. So it would have been one thing if you're a prosecutor, if a person turns themselves in because it's taxing their conscience, you actually may be inclined to give them a little bit of deference when it comes to how long they have to go sit down. And even if the prosecutor isn't inclined, that's going to be a factor that the judge may consider if you do what's called an open plea. Open plea, you just like, Your Honor, I'm guilty. I'm just throwing myself at the mercy of the court. I turned myself in. I'm remorseful. You got all this good stuff you did. That can be a factor that the judge will use to consider or potential consider giving you something lowering a lower sentence on the sentencing scale. But Keefe D didn't do that. G-Dep committed a murder, was making on the verge of becoming a multimillionaire, couldn't sleep at night, turned himself into law enforcement. They thought he was joking. They sent him home. He came back again to turn himself in, and now he's doing this time and changing his life around. That's different from what Keefe D did, okay? Keefe D held on to this murder. He didn't talk. The one time he did talk and it's documented, he did it as a way to get out of a drug charge. He had drug trafficking charges. He had some of his immediate family members who were involved, and he used his information in the Tupac murder as a leveraging tool to make sure his family didn't have to eat any time, which, I mean, most people would probably do. But you don't get leverage. You get consideration for less time if you turn yourself in out of remorse. The fact that you went on the global Black podcast tour circuit, true crime circuit, and you did it for monetary gain. It wasn't just your interview with Vlad. You probably got 100 racks according to the internet, or at least something. You got paid a hefty bag to go in there and tell your story. Every time he told the story, it was for some monetary gain. It was for monetary benefit. That's looked at completely different than the guy who goes and turns himself in because his conscience bothering him. So I just don't see the prosecutors giving him any leverage. I'm telling y'all now, I've been doing this stuff for a while, and I wouldn't give him no damn leverage. Man, you had this going through these loopholes for 27 years. Man, get out of here. I'm not giving you nothing unless you got something really juicy, and I just don't think he'll do that and give that up. That's it for this video. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Y'all think this is going to be an easy case? Y'all think his lawyer going to do something outstanding? I don't know what Keefe D pocket's looking like, but I don't think he got a bag to get no dream team. He ain't puffy or nothing like that. So I think it's going to be an easy W. Justice is probably going to be served in the favor of the victim in this case. That's my take on it. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. And if you like this video, check out the video on the screen. There's more content related to finances and attorney reactions.